Welcome to the Arts to Hearts podcast, a show for artists, creators, creative entrepreneurs to have heartfelt conversations about living a creative life and a career. As you go into this show, hear your favorite creators talk about money, mindset, business, creativity, and everything else that goes behind into making a life that we all adore as an artist. Hear the messy and the wonderful side of being a creative. I am your host, Charika Arora, an artist, creator, and founder of Arts to Hearts project. Thank you for joining me here. Let's jump right in. Hey you guys, welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast. This is season 2 and I'm your host Charika. Today I have an amazing artist from again another corner of the world. Someone who's really popular on the internet, very loved and has so much amazing experiences to share with us. I have Alli on the podcast, who's widely popular in the internet. I've had the pleasure to speak to her in one of her early sessions in Community Art Queens. And I was so mesmerized with her honesty, how she really shared her story. And I really wanted to bring her on the podcast today. So, welcome to the podcast, Alli. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. Alli, I remember our session in the Art Queens, and that's where I actually met you for the first time. I knew about you before that, but it was so nice because we had such a nice session. You were so honest. You shared a lot about your work, your own journey, things like that. Um, but before we go into any of that, can you, for anyone who doesn't know you or anyone, just to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, would you like to introduce yourself on the podcast once?
Yes, I am Alli K. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I am a full-time artist. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I started off actually painting canvases and globes out of my kitchen apartment, and it kind of grew into I started off as what I thought was going to be a hobby. And my husband even was like, oh, this is a cute hobby. Like, you need to get a job. But then I started selling my artwork and my friends were paying for them. And I'm such a giver. And so I was like, no, you don't have to pay. And like, no, like, this is a business. So I'm like, is it? And they're like, yes, it is. And so they started paying me. So I definitely thank all of my friends who supported me at the very beginning, and they really pushed me to be like, okay, this is a business. And so I started my business painting canvases and globes, and I was like, okay, how do I prove to myself and to my family and to everyone around that I am like a true business? And I knew that I couldn't sustain what I was doing with just like making little cards and canvases like that. You would have to sell so many, do wholesale, something like that. And I just didn't know that world back then. That was 7 years ago when I started. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get into the wedding industry. I had just gotten married. I know that there's so much money into wedding and invitations. I was like, I'm going to start that. So I started doing calligraphy and wedding signs, and I really was known for that in Dallas, which was really great. And that's where I really learned how to network too, was within the wedding industry. I really realized that I wasn't networking to brides. I was mostly networking to the other wedding industry companies. So like the florists, the photographers, the wedding planners, things like that. And that's, my business just skyrocketed when I realized that was the key to networking versus trying to focus on the brides. So I did that for a couple of years, and I grew out of my kitchen apartment. So I moved into a studio. As a studio, we have a thing called Craigslist here. I don't know if that's national, like worldwide, but it's essentially like an eBay or whatnot, but for anything and everything. So I found my first studio off of Craigslist. It was ratty. And I was like, my husband was like, I don't know about this. I'm like, no. It just needs a good white paint, and we'll make it work. So I painted it. I asked my landlord, like, hey, can I paint a mural on this wall? And he's like, yeah, like, this is your space. You can do whatever. And I was like, awesome. So I painted my very first mural. I had no idea what I was doing. I think I painted it in Sharpie, like didn't even use like the correct paint. I was just like, okay, we'll just paint this up on the wall. It was kind of like weird, like taboo, because you've always been told like, don't paint, don't write on the
Yeah.
walls, like don't do that. So it was a weird feeling of like, okay, I'm just gonna write on this wall. But I did, and I posted on social media. And very, very long story short, now I've painted over 100 murals all throughout the
Oh,
U.S.
wow.
and have now grown my business into a six-figure art business, which is really great. And just love to be able to share this story that there is no such thing as starving artists, because that's what I grew up with. And through the early years of my career, when I was like, oh yeah, I'm an artist, I would still kind of get that like, oh, you're an artist. Like, oh, you're relying on like your husband's income, or oh, you're one
Oh,
of those
wow.
starving artists and not doing anything. But I love to be able to kind of break that stereotype and be like, yeah, I'm an artist. And I
I
make,
own a six-figure business.
yes, yeah, I make more money than my husband. So it's a great.
That's so amazing and so inspiring. I mean, like you made it sound so easy, but I'm sure it wasn't that swift and smooth. But
Yes.
before we go into that, tell me something. Before, like in the beginning of the story, you mentioned from the point where you just started it as a hobby. What were you doing
Mhm.
before that? Were you anywhere interested in the arts, like in doodling, drawing, or like, were you
Yeah.
the artsy kid before that?
So before that, I had just graduated college. So I graduated with a marketing degree
Oh,
from
wow.
UNT. It's a college here in Texas. And I could not find a job whatsoever. It was kind of like the Hunger Games when I graduated. Like all my classmates were going out for the same jobs, and I at the time just like didn't have enough experience within the marketing. I always kind of took the I'm going to be a nanny route, or I interned at a mom and pop shop that I've grown up with, and I helped them. So it wasn't I never worked in the corporate world ever,
Yeah,
which is really weird to think about. But because I didn't have that corporate world experience, it was hard for me to get a corporate job.
yeah,
And at the time, I was really defeated. I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Like, if the people would just give me a chance, I know I'm so great at this. Like, they don't know what they're missing. And I was just, now looking back as like, I now know why I didn't get those
why
jobs.
this?
So I wasn't made to work for someone else. I was made to work for myself. So
Yeah. Do you think like your experience and your degree in the marketing um, also made it quite possible for you to live a life like this, to be self-employed, to grow your business? Because it's a lot of effort of promotion and putting yourself out there.
it is. And there was one year where I came to my parents. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not using my marketing degree. Like, you spent so much money for me to go to college, and I don't have a marketing job. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you market yourself every single day. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess like subconsciously I do that, but I'm not like using like I never made like a business plan or a marketing strategy. Like all of like the really textbook stuff that I learned in college, I feel like I don't really use. I had one class in college that was about how to build a website. And I was like, this is so silly. I'm never going to have to build a website. Like, this is pointless. And so I had a really good friend that was taking the class with me. She was really great at that stuff. And so she helped me a ton through that. But now I wish that I would have actually paid attention in that class, because I actually do build websites now.
wow, you do?
Well, I build my own website. So
Oh,
not like anything, it's like Squarespace, things like that.
yeah.
But I'm like, oh man, I could have done something way cooler if I would have paid attention in that class. But
But I
joke's
also
on
think
me.
like it's also, I think it's a lot of times it's just not the direct skills, but also subconsciously whatever, whatever path of degree, let's say, learning that we take at that point,
Mhm.
even if we're directly not consuming that knowledge, but we're always subconsciously consuming that knowledge.
Oh, for sure. And I think with college, I definitely learned skills of networking and how to um, figure out like who are the good classmates to work with in class and who are not. And I use those skills outside of college too. So just so the social aspect of it was really great, and I definitely took that outside of college and
So
within my career.
lovely. So you've never been to an art school, right?
So I say that, so I graduated with marketing, but I started off my college career as an interior design student. And
Oh
so being an
wow.
interior design student, you had to take like art one, art history, color theory, things like that. So I have technically a minor in art, but nothing that is just like I don't have an art degree type of thing, but definitely a minor,
Lovely.
very basic stuff.
But
Yes.
you're like a graduate in interior design?
No, so I started off in interior design and I got cold feet. I was like, I'm not going to be able to
Oh.
get a job. I need a business degree, things like that. So I switched it to marketing.
Oh, so in the beginning you were there for a while.
Yes, yes,
Oh
yeah.
wow. Now if you connect the dots, it makes so much more sense.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of that you've done today, like you're not only someone who's painted murals, you've also written books. It it's it's such a nice and inspiring example to see for a lot of people who think they need to come from a certain background or a certain
Mm-hmm.
degree or a certain something to know, like to be here or to do all of this. Will you share your journey about when, like, how did this pan out for you? A lot of work that you're doing today, you've done like murals, books, you do so many other projects. Can you talk a little bit about your journey about of reaching here?
Yeah, so it definitely was a process. I know it seems like social media is definitely like
Yeah,
just the highlight reel, but there's a lot that goes in there on the back end. But if you just kind of like scroll through my social media, she's like, "Wow, this girl has done so much in such a short period of time," and it kind of does seem like it. It doesn't seem like it's been 7 years that I've been in business, but it's definitely evolved
yeah,
so much. And it's just like me being open and me being open for opportunities and not being too focused on one thing to be able to do other things. I think a lot of people I think a lot of people try to, like, everyone is like, oh, find your niche, find your niche, find your niche. And that's great at some points of like finding your brand and like who your brand is going to be. But as far as like opportunities and stuff, like, don't put yourself in a box. Like, they're like, oh, I only paint murals, or oh, I only do this. And I'm like, well, I can also write how to draw books, and I can also have an online shop, and I can also have a podcast, and I can also like help other creatives build confidence. I can and I want to do all these other things, and we shouldn't limit ourselves to only doing one aspect of art. We can do like, so for me, like, I'm mostly known for my black and white artwork. And so like
yeah.
I'm always constantly like, okay, this is kind of like my brand. This is me. This is like who I am. So like, what can I use this black and white artwork for, and what can I put it on? And just trying to like push myself creatively that way.
Amazing. So when you're talking about the black and white artwork, mm, let's also talk about how you found your style, which has become quite iconic for who you are today. Were you were you around this? Were you very different? How was it like?
Yeah, so that also evolved. I did not start off. I was a lot of like pink and glitter and gold and all this stuff. And that's what was really trendy at the time. When I first graduated high school, or sorry, when I first
College.
graduated college, I was looking at Hobby Lobby and all these signs. I'm like, oh, I can make that. And so that's what I did. And so that was really in at the moment. But during those like first couple of years outside of college, I was by myself a lot. My friends all had 9 to 5 jobs. I hadn't had a 9 to 5 job. And so it was just me and my cat. And I really got to know who I was. My wardrobe changed. I wasn't, because I think like when you're around other people, you
You
definitely
get,
tend to uh, attract what they're wearing or what they're doing
yeah,
and things like that. And so when I wasn't and it was just me, I started to really find myself in what I personally liked. And I found my style looking around like, what am I personally buying? What am I styling my house as? What am I comfortable in? And it was really just neutrals, black and white. Like I'm really drawn to textures, things like that. And so I would do all of those canvases for other clients that were the pink and the glitter. And like afterward, I would just feel drained. Like they loved it and it was exactly what they were wanting. But for me, I was like, this isn't that great. Or like I stopped painting on canvases because I hated painting on canvases. And so I slowly just over the time was like, okay, I'm not going to paint on canvases anymore. I'm only going to do paper, or I'm only going to do wood panels, and just slowly kind of adding that into my business. And finally, when I was making my own art, it was only black and white stuff. And so I would make that stuff for me, post it on social media, and people were drawn to it. So every aspect that I am doing and have been doing all stemmed from creating it for myself first.
wow, amazing. Now, when a lot of your work is also commission based because you're a mural artist, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
commission you. What is your, I'm going to have a lot of technical questions now because I know a lot of
Yeah.
people struggle with these questions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're a commission based artist, you have a very iconic style.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, how do you maintain like a portfolio that also gives you enough opportunity to take, more projects and show like what more you can do, but also let you maintain a style that's very you. And I think you do that very well.
Yeah, you definitely don't have to show every single thing. That's the great about Instagram is that it is literally just a highlight reel. I only post what I want to highlight. There are so many murals that I've done that it's just like every color under the sun. And I'm like, well, I really don't want to be known for this. So I'm not going to post it or I'm not going to post it as much. I've definitely added way more color over the past year, couple of months, really just because it's always great to evolve. It's always, again,
Yeah.
like, don't put yourself in a box, like if you're only going to do black and white artwork. And so it's just like, okay, I'm going to do black and white, but maybe pops of color here and there. And I still feel like it's pretty true to myself of like the elements that, like, for example, I just did a mural this past weekend and the flowers were black and white, but then everything around it was color. So the flowers that I'm most known for are black and white, so that still stayed true to me, but then adding that color for the client. So it was a good, like, just blend of both parties.
Yeah. Okay. When it comes to business, I think that's something that you have a lot to share about because you knew nothing, and then from that, you've built this business and you've also become widely popular on the internet. Let's talk about that side of your work.
Yeah, no, I kind of nerd out about the business side. I personally really like doing it. And yeah, I think a lot of people realize that when you have an art business, it's not just painting every day. Like there
Absolutely.
are multiple days where I do not paint a single thing. Like for example, today I was on my computer all day long doing invoices, emails, follow-ups, meetings, things like that. So it really is more than probably 50% of the the work is just the business side of there. Yes, there is designing of like proposals, but you have to design and then send proposals and emails and back and forth and
Yeah,
revisions. And there's sometimes that feels like creative, but then a lot of times it just feels
it
like
doesn't.
it's work. But again, like I really enjoy it. I love Excel sheets and making
Oh
to-do
my
lists and
God,
sending
really?
and answering emails and things like that. But yeah, I have so many artist friends that are like, oh, I hate the business side. Like I want my business to grow. But I'm like, okay, well, if you want your business to grow, you got to grow the business, meaning like you got
Yeah.
to grow like the actual business side of things. And you can, if you like absolutely hate it, like there's obviously other means of hiring an agent or a manager. They're going to take a cut of things, but then you can only focus on the creative side. So that's also an option. But I truly do think that I'm able to grow my business faster doing it myself.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about your lessons of growing that, growing to a six-figure business with something a lot of artists aspire to be. I think a lot of artists get caught in the way a lot of times, is this good enough? Is this not good enough? Am I becoming too commercial? Am I being too, this boundary? I think that this holds a lot of artists back because a lot of artists are also scared about not fitting, oh, this is not art, or this is,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you become a sellout, or become
Mm-hmm.
there's so much stigma around a lot of these things. Do you had what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging because I do think there are two categories of art. There are like the artist that is in the galleries and they're painting canvases and they do shows, and their commissions are maybe for like hotels or interior designers that are like more home. They probably don't have like an online shop. But then there's also the artists that are kind of in my category where it is like
Yeah,
art licensing, product development, commercial. It is more run like a business, like
yeah,
not necessarily like a Target, but like how there's multiple different streams of income and revenue coming into that business, whereas a traditional artist with commissions of artwork and they only work on an art piece for a month, and that's their month of I'm going to just work on this one art piece, but then sell it
yeah,
for X amount of dollars. So you just have to really focus and determine from an early stage of like what you want to do. Like that other, like that showroom artist, like that's not me. Like I can't just like sit down and create just out of the blue. I
yeah,
really thrive on the collaborations between the clients, the collaborations between me and like my potential customers that are going to buy my stuff on website. And really the stuff on my website is just like, okay, what do I want? Or what do I need to give to someone? So everything on my website is pretty much like I made it for myself and I put it on there, or I gifted it to a friend and they're like, someone saw it and like, oh, I want to buy that. So then I put it on my website.
oh
So
wow,
yeah, I just had to. I think I saw that it was easier to grow and easier to have a salary when I set up my art as a business. I sometimes
yeah,
even really like think of myself as a business person, more so as a business person that knows how to design, essentially.
yeah, oh wow, I love when you put it that way.
Yeah.
When I was going through your website, something that I really loved, you did this collaboration and you had this long beautiful veil. Can you talk about that project? Because I was stunned. I loved it.
Oh, yes, the wedding veil. Yeah, that was an amazing collaboration. I have been very fortunate and just being authentic on social media draws people in, and they feel like they know you and they want to work with you. So that collaboration came to me like that. I had no idea that that could even be possible. So that came to me through my inbox, and she's like, "Hey, I love your beautiful artwork. Can we put this on veils?" I'm like, "Yes." Also, you are like 3 years too late because I wish I had this for my own wedding. But yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful
And very
collaboration.
different. Very different. I don't think
Yes,
I see
very,
a
very
lot of
different.
artists do this.
Yeah, that was also one of those like projects that I was just like so excited about, and I probably would have done for free. And was like, I just want to have this.
Love it.
I definitely like undercut myself on that because I
Yeah.
didn't want her to say no. But just being able to have those veils for a lifetime is definitely worth it. And being able to be a part of other people's weddings is definitely worth it. I
Wow.
definitely think that there should be a good balance of projects that are just good for the soul. I think that's what helps.
Yeah.
Kind of like that question that you had earlier, like how do you not feel like you're kind of settling or conforming to society and whatnot of like being a business. So I try to really have projects yearly that are like, okay, this is just food for my soul. Like I'm just going to create this. I would do this for free, but I'm still going to charge you for a little bit. But that was definitely one of those projects where I'm just like, this is why I like being an artist, because I'm able to create stuff like that.
I love that because I think when I saw your website, I was so stunned because we all see artist collaborations, product lines,
Yeah.
and everything, but this was something really out of line and very different and
Mm-hmm.
still very you. And I was like, how? I mean, it's such a beautiful integration of also seeing how our work can be translated in several
Yes, in
different
so
mediums.
many different ways, so that you don't
Yeah,
even think of. Yeah. And to
yeah,
go back on like a good thing to like really think about is like it's not all about like the ROI, like the return on investment, like how
yeah.
much money am I going to make. I just had a talk with at a conference and she's like, well, I don't think I'm going to make this much money on this project. I'm like, yeah, but look at the outcome of like the people that you're going to meet and the other businesses that could be attracted to your work because of this project. So I definitely look out for those projects all the time. If it's a low budget, I definitely see, if I see potential and it's like a low budget, I'm still always going to take it. Or if there's like no budget, I'm still always going to take it because I know that there's value in the marketing and the outcomes that will come from that project.
Love that. Now you also have like like your own personal online shop. You'll also talk about your books, but before that, let's just also talk about your online shop, which is quite extensive. You have quite a good product line. Now, a lot of people, artists want to, and I feel like online shops are a great way to, have control, no matter if you're a fine artist, illustrator, commission, whatever work that you're doing. But if you have access to something that's in your own hand, you can also, I feel like it's a great avenue to play. Like, you can always experiment and do
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. But a lot of people struggle with growing an online shop today, especially
Mm-hmm.
because the market has become even more saturated. Also, a lot of times now we have drop shipping services basically for
Mm-hmm.
anyone who's listening. Like, you don't have to like pack, like ship,
Yes.
manufacture. You just
Yes.
integrate them on your website and they do everything for you. Now,
Yes.
can you talk about your experience of setting up your shop, growing it, and how much does that bring stability in your business in terms of financially? And like, let's just talk about that because I know you will have great advices.
Yeah, so I knew when I started my art business that having like seasonal artwork and just the people that have an online shop or a storefront, like that is hard work. It's a lot of stress, it's a lot of turnover. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. It's just not who my personality is, not a good match for that. But I was coming out with books. And so I was like, okay, well, I can't just sell books on my website. Like, I might as well have other things. And so that's why I started off with just doing little art prints and t shirts. And then, like I said earlier, it has grown so much because I'll either make something for myself and then someone sees it and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to buy this. I'm like, okay, I'll make it. I started getting burned out because I would make it because two people would say that they would want to buy it. So I'm like, oh,
And
I have to make this now. And then those two people never showed up and I sold like three. So I was like, okay, well,
oh my God.
I'm never doing this again. So the minute I discovered drop shipping, it was a game changer. I was like, oh, well, this is perfect. I don't have the only upfront cost is me ordering samples or me ordering stuff for myself and seeing if I like it. And then just adding it to my website. It's so easy. If someone is listening and they want to open up an online shop, please do drop shipping. And time is money. And so I was wasting
Yeah.
so much time doing orders and I hated it. And I was like, okay, I either need to hire someone, which costs a lot of money, or I just need to do another or I just need to not do an online shop, or I need to figure out something else. And I'm glad that I found drop shipping.
Yeah,
But
and I
yes,
think a lot of times people also, we get discouraged because
yeah, definitely.
you expect something, it doesn't show up. Like, let's say the people that were
Yes,
encouraging, and then they don't show up,
yes,
and you're relying
yes.
on them, and you're like, okay.
Like, hello,
And
yeah.
it's very heartbreaking. I did
Yeah,
this for you.
I know. But with dropshipping, like you can literally sell one and
Yeah,
it's fine and no one would know.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
just like saves up so much time in your house and things like that. But my online shop is definitely passive. So I think what has definitely helped grow my business into a six-figure business, and that's not, I've only been a six-figure business for the past 2-3 years out of the 7 years that I've been in business. So it definitely didn't happen in the early stages. It just really happened in the later stages. But it was when I started to really kind of hone in on my passive income streams. There's one person that told me that most millionaires have 7 sources of
Seven.
passive incomes. And so I was like, okay, that's a perfect goal. I'm nowhere near $1 million, like not even close. But it was a good kind of like, okay, like goal and like, okay, how can I stretch Alli to be 7 passes of income? And it was it's been a really good challenge. And so just trying to have different things like it's just so hard to have a creative business and only have like 1 or 2 streams of income. It's
Yeah,
going to be, yeah, it's just really stressful. And like, if there's a pandemic that happens and then those 2 sources of income are shot, then like you're kind of screwed. And
yeah.
so I really saw what was great is like having those multiple passive incomes. I kind of say that it's like business insurance essentially. So like when two kind of fall off the face of the earth, then the other ones I can really lean into and really have those backups.
Lovely. And I'm sure that would have served you in the pandemic because the murals, of course,
The murals stopped completely. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And murals are the biggest kind of pie or
yeah.
slice of out of my pie. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But I actually made the more money that I've actually made more money than I've had in the past during the pandemic, which was crazy. But I really just honed in on those other passive incomes. And so now I've really seen a huge growth of being able to lean into those other sources of income, grow those. But then murals came back. And so my business has just kind of been better than it has ever been.
Oh, wow. Now let's also talk about something that you're also widely popular and known for, which are your books. Can you
Yes.
talk about how that happened? How has your journey been making these books?
That is also another kind of I feel very blessed and thankful to have the opportunity. I was approached by my publisher that I still work with today, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to write a how to draw floral book." Like it wasn't even my idea. They're like, we see
When
this
was this?
lack. This was, I think it was like 2 years into my business, 2 or 3.
Wow.
So I was still fairly fresh. And so they saw a lack in the kind of book world of like, there's not really modern how to draw floral books. And so at first I thought it was a scam. I was like, well, how much money am I going to have to pay them? Like, this doesn't seem right. And my dad actually has published books in the past. And so
Oh,
I brought
wow.
him the contract and he's like, no, this is legit contract. Like, you need to do this. I'm like, but I don't draw a lot of flowers. Like I would draw flowers here and there on like wedding invitations.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I was like, oh, I don't know why they're asking me. Like, this just doesn't seem, because at the time I was looking up to other Instagrammers that were drawing beautiful florals. And I was like, why didn't they ask them? Like, this just seems really fishy. And my dad was like, they asked you for a reason.
You.
They obviously saw something in me. And I asked my publisher, I was like, why did you ask me? And they're like, well, you just have this like heart of giving. And that we saw that so much throughout your Instagram, which I didn't think that I was I wasn't saying that in my
Yeah.
Instagram captions or anything like that, but they just saw it through what I was posting and what I was sharing. And like, we just think that you would be a great author. So I'm so glad that they took a chance on me and then they saw something in
Oh,
me that I
wow.
didn't see in myself. And so I wrote my first book, thought that was going to be my last book. And they're like, okay, this book did really great. Let's do another one. I was like, okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
I did my second book, Florals by Hand. And if you have ever seen any of my books, you'll notice that like Florals by Hand is double the size of my first book because I really thought that that was going to be my last book. I was like, okay, this is my last one, my last hurrah. Like, let's put it all out in this book. And that did really well. And actually, Hobby Lobby, which is a craft store here in the
Yeah.
US, they approached my publisher and they're like, hey, we want to do coloring books and we want them to come from Alli and one other artist that was in the publishing house. And they're like, okay. So I was like, all right, I guess we're going to do coloring books. We thought coloring books were not in anymore, but obviously they
Yeah.
are. I was like, hey, well, I want to do a coloring book. I want to make it something unique and something that's for me, because I'm not a big colorer. I think that they're actually stressful. I hate all of those like
Oh,
teeny tiny dots. I was
oh
like,
my God.
this is not, because I'm an instant gratification person. Like, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it in all one setting. I was like, there's no way I can get this in all one setting. So I made sure that the coloring book that I made was something that was easy and approachable and fun. So I did that. Then during the pandemic, I did kids books. I really saw a need for all of these parents that were now having to homeschool all their kids. I'm like, okay, let's do some kids books. So I came out with 3 kids books
Oh,
during the
wow.
pandemic, kind of back to back, which was
3.
a little crazy. Yeah. And then another in coloring book just because my first one did well. And now I'm coming out with another coloring
Oh,
book.
God. So there's like
And
books all over the place.
there is, and I just signed a deal to do 2 more books
Oh,
this week.
wow.
So yeah, I don't think I will stop. I've now stopped saying this is my last book because
I'm sure
I
there
I
shouldn't
don't
be
think
any loss.
yes, I don't think I will stop writing books anytime soon. So I'm very, very
Oh my
pleased
God.
to be able to. And I actually had a conversation with my publisher this afternoon, and he's like we could ask any publisher to do these kids books or do another coloring book, but like we ask you because you're so easy to work with and things like that. So it's super just having a good spirit about things, staying positive, being easy to work with. Like those are really great characteristics that you need to have in order to have definitely a lot of possibilities. So
Yeah, that's true. Out of everything that you do, I also have one more question, then I'll ask this actually. You have one of the most unique podcasts. I have to say that. Can you talk about that and what I mean? I was when I figured and I got to um like know about your podcast, which is Breakfast with Sis. Who's your sis
yes.
in that? Would you like to share?
So I'm Sis.
Okay.
I do a podcast with my dad.
Yes.
Uh, we've taken a break during the pandemic. It was really hard for us to do a podcast. It was just every week it was the same old. And so we took a break and hopefully our lives have been so busy. So we're trying to get back into getting into the groove of doing it. But we still do breakfast every Saturday morning. And so I've been having a breakfast date with my dad since I was 13. And now I'm
Wow.
about to turn 31. So it's been a long time, a long tradition. And so one day we're just like, these conversations are really great. We should probably start a podcast. And that's exactly what we did. So we have just been recording our Saturday morning conversations, and it's truly raw, and we never know what we're going to talk about. We sometimes have guests join us for breakfast, but we typically do it at a Chick-fil-A. That's another reason why we had to take a break, because Chick-fil-A's were closed. It's a fast food chain here in the US. But yeah, we just have genuine conversations about life and ups and downs and our highs and lows and what's going on in my business and what's going on in his business and things like that. So
What does your father do?
So he actually is just got a new job, but he used to work at a tax firm for HR, like, but he calls him chief people officer because he likes to be likes to develop people. So it's
Oh, wow.
essentially like every job that he's had, it's all based around like helping and developing people.
Oh, wow. So I do feel like your dad has a lot of influence on you and he's
Oh,
been,
definitely, definitely, yes, my best
because it's,
mentor.
oh, wow. That's so nice to hear. Because breakfast with sis, and I was like, when I was going through, I was like, this is so cool because very different. And
I know
that's what I think go ahead.
yeah, he calls me sis. That's where it comes from. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I since my brother was born, he's always called me sis. So it's like short for sister.
Wow. And that's what I really liked about your work is that whenever you do something, you can see that you do it from a place of very playfulness. And I think that is something that when we go into business and then we are doing all of these things and everything goes like your successes, investments, business, all of
Mm-hmm.
those things come
Mm-hmm.
in, we often forget to play. That's
Yes.
that's the whole point of why we started this, why we chose this
Yes.
path.
Yes.
How do you keep yourself, how do you keep growing your business, but also not take yourself too seriously in this process?
Oh man, you can't. I definitely think my husband plays a good part into that. He's a big kid in an adult body, so he's constantly just making me laugh and just making me remind myself that not to take myself too seriously or that life just can't be taken too seriously. I'm a very stressful person, so I think
Really?
trying to. Oh yes, oh yes. Um, yeah, therapy helps with that, but also laughter helps quite a bit. So, I mean, there's just
Find a
some things
husband
where
who
you
makes you
just
laugh.
kind of, yes, find out what makes you laugh or laugh at yourself, things like that. So, a friend that makes you laugh. But yeah, like I was always like, caught up in going to live life after my to-do list was done. And I like looked up, I'm like, okay, my to-do list is never going to be done. So it's just a never ending wheel. So that was a big wake up call of, okay, you need to stop. Like having your own business, you have the ability and the pleasure of making your own schedule and being your own boss. And so I'm sometimes too hard of a boss on myself, but trying to remind myself that I do have the privilege of being able to do what I can and when I can and how long and how much. And it's something that I
Yeah,
forget about all the time, but trying
yeah,
to live life outside of work is definitely always the key kind of goal in front of my mind.
I love that. I think when you go into business and when I think this is something we learn like this is the high that you get before you get down because
Yes.
like we sometimes I think we all anyone who gets into business we all experience that dip that you lose yourself in your work and then there's one day when you wake up and you realize like even to grow this you need to first get out of it.
Yes. Yes. Just do it. Just do it. Yeah.
Okay, my last question and then we'll jump into the rapid fire. Okay,
Fun.
which is you have grown your business, you are definitely great with what you do, not only your creative side but for your business side. um, what is that one thing that you think, especially anyone who's listening, because a lot of artists have same desires as I'm sure that you're making possible too. And I think what I really absolutely admire, when you do something like when I see you do things, it inspires me and it makes it believe me that if she can do it, then it's also possible for me. But again, with social media now getting on our nerves a lot of times, and you've been widely popular on Instagram, let's also just touch upon your journey of Instagram and how has that helped you and how you approach it so that anyone who wants to have or has similar goals can do that. Just in general, my question is what has helped you the most and what can people who are hearing right now pick up so that they can move the needle for themselves and go chase the dreams that they have.
Yeah, definitely. Not to be like a Debbie Downer of this question, but I think definitely like knowing that Instagram is only a highlight reel and you only
Yeah,
see certain aspects of one person's life, and realizing like everyone's journey is going to be different.
different.
So like for me, like I don't have kids. I It's just me and my husband. I've been with my husband since I was 14, so we're definitely not in like the
Wow.
hard. I know. So we've been together for a long time, so we're super comfortable just chilling. If I'm working in bed and he's working in bed, like we're okay and we can still connect and things like that. But yeah, so I don't have kids. I've been with my husband for a while. I live in a very large city that is great for community and really supports the arts. There's like all of these different aspects that are behind the scenes that someone might not realize that helps and benefits me growing my business. So you have to go into knowing like the time that you put in is what you're also going to get out. So I put a lot of time into this business, and so I'm able to get a lot of this the benefits of growing it. And yeah, so I put a lot of time into it, which makes it seem like I get a lot out of it, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does.
So that's definitely like, yes, like dream big, but also
I
make
can't.
sure that you set up your, what's the word? Dream big, but also know like, not like your limitations, but just like know that there's so many other things that go into dreaming and going into making plans in your business, and making sure that you also set those up, and also knowing, okay, like I want to be like Alli, but I live in this small town that doesn't have a lot of walls available. Like maybe move to a bigger town, things like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Instagram is a really, really great tool. It's a love-hate relationship for sure. You feel like you kind of have to like constantly like feed the beast.
Yes.
But I've actually made like some of my best friends off of Instagram. So
I
like the magic
agree.
definitely happens once you get off of Instagram. A lot of my business does come from Instagram because they have seen my Instagram, but they've also has come from word of mouth of like, yes, they might have known me from Instagram, but like, for example, I got to deal with Fossil because they were in a meeting. Fossil was meeting, and they're like, hey, we should do a mural. And so one girl was like, oh my gosh, I know this girl on Instagram. They showed my
The
portfolio,
profile.
and they were like, oh, she's great. Let's book her. So
Oh,
definitely the magic
wow.
happened. Yeah. So definitely like you definitely want to be top of mind.
Yeah.
Um, of when someone is like, oh, I need something, you want to be the first person that they think of. So in order to
Yeah.
do that, you have to really connect with those people on a personal level.
Yes. Lovely. I love that. Ali, this was wonderful. You shared such great insights. I am so grateful. Thank you so much.
Of course, anytime.
Let's get into the rapid fire. It's a small,
I
fun rapid fire.
I love it. I can't wait. I don't even know what these questions are, so I'm so curious.
Okay. So, are you ready? You could just give me what comes to your mind. There's no right and
Yes.
wrong. Quick
Yes.
one.
Perfect.
Okay. One, two, three. Here we go. One thing you want to convey through your work in the arts.
Confidence.
What describes one word that describes you the best?
Um, Down to earth. I know that's kind of like 3 words, but we'll hyphen
It's
it.
okay. It's okay. We take that. If you could have a studio anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Ooh, New York for sure.
Ooh, really? You're a
Yeah,
city girl.
yes, I am. I live in Dallas, so a lot of people might think like it's like, oh, cowboy boots and country living, but I'm definitely a city girl. I go to New York every year. I don't think I could actually like live there, but I definitely
Yeah.
go to New York every year to visit. There's something about the air and the environment and the people and the architecture. It just gives me a good creative burst of
Wow.
excitement.
Your biggest source of inspiration.
Definitely, actually, like my friends in the entrepreneur world, seeing them be successful and seeing them go through their challenges, because it's hard. You're by
Yeah.
yourself a lot of times, and so you think that you're going through you're going through the struggles alone, but really you're not. All these
Yeah.
other creative artists are going through the same struggles, so they're just inspiring. Like if they're doing really great, it pushes me to do really great. So,
I love this answer. I love this answer. Okay. Who's your favorite woman artist? Any point of time.
oh man, this is hard. So, I personally don't look at a lot of other art. I think it has helped me stay true to myself, and stay true to who I am. Obviously, I love going to like the Met and the museum and looking at all of that, but I try to not really scroll through Pinterest a lot,
Yeah.
or look at, like, yes, I follow a lot of other creative artists, but I love like following pottery artists and florists. Like I follow a ton of florists that grow their own
Oh, wow.
florals. So I don't know if I think probably, so my good friend Sarah, the mint gardener, she's a watercolor artist, and she
Really?
is a true dear friend to me, but I absolutely just get just captivated by her artwork and when she paints, and her voice is so soothing. So I would probably have to say her. All my other art friends
Love
are
that.
probably like, what about me? But
Who can you rename, like, say her name again?
yeah, so Sarah from the Mint Gardener.
Oh, I follow her. I love her
Yes,
work.
she's amazing. Yes, she's
Yes,
the
yes.
kindest soul. Yes.
Oh, wow. Love that. Okay. Who's your go-to person when you are in trouble or in need of advice?
Definitely my dad. He is my number one go-to. He's my biggest cheerleader. I look up to him so much. I tell myself all the time from a very early age, I've always said like I want to be just like my dad. And so
Oh, wow.
um, I think I am accomplishing that goal, which
Oh,
is fun.
wow. That's so nice. Okay, this is a little more than a word, but can you share like one moment, anything, any moment out of so many I'm sure you must have had, where you felt really you had this gratitude and you felt very grateful to be doing what you're doing today?
Really
Just one.
grateful.
Yeah. Just,
Um,
being grateful for an artist. Anything that just any one moment.
Yeah, so when I was traveling to Europe, I went to Rome and I'm visiting the Colosseum, and me and my husband are taking photos, and then this girl is like out of the blue, she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you Alli K?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." She's like, "I follow you. You are so inspiring. I love that." And that was like a goosebump moment for
Oh,
me,
wow.
really realizing that like it's not just me behind the phone or behind my computer in Dallas.
Yeah.
Like my art and my books is a global reach. Like that is
Yeah.
just like, I have goosebumps really just talking about it right now, that there are people all over the world that know who I am and that look up to me and that I'm helping build their confidence. I have so many opportunities of things that I can help people with my books, and I get so many messages of people saying like, "Oh my gosh, your books have helped me and now I have my own business." So it's just really great to be able to be bigger than myself.
I love that. That's so admiring. Okay. Shout out to an artist you're currently loving on social media.
Um okay, so since I shouted out my good friend Sarah from the Mint Gardener, I'm gonna shout out my other good friend, Colleen. She's
Okay.
Colleen Elizabeth. I'm pretty sure her Instagram is either Colleen Elizabeth or Colleen Elizabeth Art. It's really sad. I probably should know this. I never look at her Instagram name because I just know that it's her. But she is a phenomenal artist. She does beautiful paint by numbers, and I don't know how she does it. She's really great. So I
Amazing.
always love
Can
following
you
her.
can you
Yeah,
DM me her profile so I will link
yeah,
all artists that you I know Mindy, the main partner.
Yes.
but I will also figure this one out, and I can't wait to check out. And anyone who's listening, guys, please, you can find all the artists Ali has mentioned in this podcast on the show notes. So you go check out both of them
Yeah, it's
and
Colleen
get them.
Elizabeth _
Colleen.
art. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, my last rapid fire question. As a woman entrepreneur, what's that one advice that you'd like to give to people who are coming behind you, who are just starting out, who whatever? I mean, one advice.
Yeah, so my best advice that I was given, and so this is the best advice that I can always give, is my dad saw that I'm very perfectionist, overanalyze everything, overguess everything. And so my dad one day came to me and he's like, you know what? Like, if it was perfect, it wouldn't look handmade. And the minute he said that sentence, it was a game changer in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, people are hiring me because they're wanting a handmade piece. They wanted something perfect. They could have done it on the computer, or ordered a sticker or something like that. So I embrace all those imperfections because it shows that this was an one-of-a-kind handmade piece.
Lovely. I love that advice. Oh my God, Ali, this was amazing. Thank you so much. You were quite a pro at this.
Thank
My
you.
my last thing and my last question before I let you go is anyone who's listening to this episode, first, where can they find you and support you? Can you tell where they can, on Instagram, your website, anywhere else that you do? And also, if there's anything else that's coming up, any new project, anything where we can support you, please let us know. And we'd love to know more about what's cooking up from your end.
Yeah, a ton of things cooking up. I have another book coming out with supply chain
Yeah.
issues. I have no idea when it's coming out. So sometime this year. But it's super easy to find. It's Alli, K-A-L-L-I-K Design. That's on allikdesign.com, Alli K Design Instagram, Alli K Design TikTok. My email is hello@allikdesign. So it's super easy to find me. But yeah, I love it when people interact with me on social media. It helps kind of keep that app not so
Yeah.
blah or not so just like a tool, or I don't know. That's the only thing that I keep going back to, that social media, and then not be such a Debbie Downer, is because I am reminded that I can interact with people all over the world. So that's for any person. Like, if you really love an account, like, just always interact with them, like them, comment, things like that. It really does make a difference, and it really kind of boosts our self-esteem and kind of keeps us going on creating all this content for free for other people.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you so much, Ali. This was so much fun. Thank you so much. I really had a great time and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can find all the details and links mentioned in the show notes of this episode available on www.arts2heartsproject.com. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to tag us in your stories and leave us a review here on iTunes or any of your favorite platforms. It really helps us to keep the show going. Thank you so much, and sending you lots of love, and I can't wait to be back here soon again. Bye.